The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Introduction to the poet. Samuel Taylor Coleridge was born on 21st October 1772 in Devonshire, England. His father, John Coleridge, was a schoolmaster and a parson. His mother, Anne Boden, was a housewife. Being a housewife, she took great care of her youngest and sensitive son. In his childhood, he was highly imaginative and he took interest in reading. He had read the Bible before he was 6 years old and the stories contained in the Arabian Nights. Education. His father passed away in 1781 and Coleridge was sent to Christ's Hospital where he remained till 1782. He made only a few friends during his stay at the school. As he was an introvert, he enthusiastically read Homer, Virgil, Shakespeare, and some other poets. In 1791, he joined Cambridge as a charity scholar. He remained there till 1794 and left without taking a degree. Poetical works. He did not write many poems, but whatever he wrote was in a fragmentary style. He composed 4 to 5 great poems after his association with William Wordsworth, like The Frost at Midnight, Christabel, Kubla Khan, and The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He also wrote some personal poems like Dejection and Ode and Youth and Age. Best at romantic poems. Coleridge's reputation as a poet depends on 3 of his great romantic poems. The first one is Christabel, second is Kubla Khan, and the third one is The Rime of Ancient Mariner. The last one is the only long poem the poet completed. It contains 625 lines, is written in 7 parts. This is skillfully woven in a form of a ballad. A ballad is a lyrical poem that tells a story, often about an experience or an event. Introduction to the poem. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner is the longest poem composed by S.T. Coleridge. It was written in 1797 to 1798. It was published in the first edition of the Lyrical Ballads. The poem is chiefly about exploring the idea of sin, punishment, and penance. The setting of the poem. In the opening of the poem, the ancient mariner stops one of the 3 wedding guests to tell his story, and he, the guest, listens to him, spellbound by the magic of his glittering eye. The story is like this. The ancient mariner, while on board, commits a sin of killing a seabird, an albatross, without any reason and from this very point, the suffering of the sailors on board begins. The ship goes in the wrong direction, and the fellow sailors start suffering without food, and though they are in the sea, yet they have no water to drink. They suffer and start dying one by one. Then the ancient mariner sees a skeleton of a ship and sees some characters in it. These characters are life in death and death. His suffering is increased because he is all alone on the wide sea. It appears to him as the rotting sea. He suffered alone for 7 days and 7 nights and felt the curse upon him, and he could not die. The turning point comes into the poem when the poet suddenly sees the moon and the stars that move onwards. The whole sky belongs to them. The moonbeams under the ship's shadow were not showing anything except some darkness. But beyond the shadow of the ship, he noticed the beauty of the creatures in the sea, their hues and colors, and was impressed. All of a sudden, he started feeling love in his heart, and he blessed them unaware. The spell was broken, and the albatross fell from his neck into the sea and sank. By the grace of Mother Mary, he was obliged by the sleep from heaven, and when he woke up, he found it was raining. He was now refreshed. After that, he heard the roaring of the wind at the distance. Though the wind did not come near the ship, yet it started moving. The sailors' bodies were aroused by the angels. They were working as lifeless tools. It was due to a group of blessed angelic spirits sent by heaven. The ship reaches his own country. The mariner sees a small boat approaching him, on which a pilot, the pilot's boy, and a hermit can be seen. As they get closer, the mariner's ship sinks suddenly, but the mariner is saved as he finds himself in the pilot's boat. When the mariner speaks, they all become afraid, and the hermit begins to pray. The mariner consoles his saviors and rows them to the land. Then he prays to hermit to grant him absolution for his sins. The mariner then feels compelled to tell his story as confession and to be free. The mariner concludes his tale by explaining that he travels from land to land. He is under the same compulsion to tell his story. He ends with a lesson that prayer is the supreme joy in life, and the best prayers are the love for the creatures created by God. Thus he leaves the wedding guest, a sadder and wiser man. Mariner moves onwards to find someone who must listen to his story. The main characters in the rhyme of the ancient mariner. The whole poem is a narrative poem, and a story is there. In this story, the main characters are the ancient mariner, the wedding guest, the seabird. It's a big bird known as the albatross. The ship which approaches them on which the mariner sees death and life in death. Sailors on board. Some other characters are also there. At the end of the poem, we find the pilot, the pilot's boy, and a hermit. The whole story revolves round the mariner and the wedding guest, as it is told to the wedding guests by the mariner.